Good evening. Hello, everyone. I've been looking forward to this moment all week. Welcome to the first ever episode of Unfiltered on SABC 3 and the SABC News Channel 404, broadcasting, listen to this, to 50 African countries. My name is Ridi Klabi, and I'm delighted to be back at my alma mater. This is where I launched my television career 17 years ago. And I'm determined to build Unfiltered, this brand new program, on the same values and tradition that attracted the best journalists in the country to the SABC. Fairness, openness, and speaking for the voiceless. Now, our democracy rests on a strong, vibrant, and accessible public broadcaster, the SABC. So it's a joy to welcome you again. Never a dull moment in South Africa. So let's remind ourselves of what happened in our country this week.
We have exhausted all avenues. We have had progress. We have tried to engage SABC. We had marches. We had petitions. We had memorandums that have been handed over to the authorities. But up to today, people, nothing has come of it. We are under the impression, and that is what the people believe in our communities, the government doesn't care.
There's no development. This is not just a SAPS problem. Where is community safety? Where is Department of Social Development? Where is economic development? We need all of those departments. They all need to be here. Just having policing is not going to solve our issues.
The people of our community are very clear that they're not going to retreat. They're not going to actually allow these people to dictate to them. They want these people to come and actually respond to their issues. Most particularly, they want Cyril Ramaphosa, as they've been stating from the very onset.
What we want is the government to come out and assist us. They've been marginalizing us for way too long. 24 years. We feel that a whole generation was neglected because this government did not come to Westbury.
Communities have spoken. They are fed up with crime, drugs, corrupt police, and unemployment. There's no doubt that they feel that the government has forgotten them. We've heard it in that clip. And so tonight on Unfiltered, we ask, who is listening to the poor? Share your views on the SABC News online Twitter page, Facebook pages using the hashtag SABC News Unfiltered. Let's welcome community leaders, Carol Sully, and also welcome Vidboy. That is really his name. Welcome, Vidboy. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
So we were meant to be joined by the police commissioner tonight. He couldn't make it at the last minute. That's what we learned here on SABC. He's not here, but maybe he's watching somewhere. What's in your heart? What do you want the leaders to know about being a mother, a resident in Westbury today?
Our leaders out there, I was a shutdown leader of what you saw earlier. I was the one that started it. So also to open our leaders' eyes, because our community also feel that our leaders are not doing enough. And to the commissioner out there as well, this is what I want to say to him. As he has promised us, he really did. He did deliver. And yes, the police did start working. And as a mother of 3 children, you know what, when I look at my child, he's 5 years old. He don't see guns on TV anymore. He see it with his own eyes. He actually know how a gun look in real life.
I'm surprised that you are so positive about what the police did, and we want to acknowledge it. Ama Berete came in, we heard from the police minister about what they're going to be doing. But you say that you're one of the people who started total shutdown, and it's going to involve other communities in Ennerdale and Eldorado Park. When I read your vision, your plans, your message to the government, it wasn't just about policing and drugs. You're talking about economic inclusion. That's more a long-term goal. How confident are you that you're going to get it in Westbury?
As a community, they saw us last week. We as a community, we had enough. And actually the media also saw it for once in, I don't know, I think it's history, especially I'm talking about Westbury now. This never ever happened in Westbury. People were scared, but for me to go to the next level, we have to start with what's happening now.
I think it's also very important to tell our viewers that 8 gang leaders or 8 criminals were arrested on Friday. That's certainly the word that we got, that they were on the police's most wanted list. So are you seeing these arrests, or is that public relations?
I'm not sure of that.
You're not sure of
I'm
that?
Not, I'm really,
That's
I'm
very
not sure
important.
Of it.
And if the police commissioner were here, we'd be posing that question to him, because a statement went out that 8 people were arrested by the police and they were on the most wanted list since July. But thank you very much. Welcome. It's very important that we hear from you, because you've walked this journey, the whole continuum from being a young boy, a little boy with dreams and aspirations, doing well at school. How did someone like yourself end up spending 14 years of his life in prison?
I think for me it was really the situation of absent father, a constant need to belong somewhere. And that is what I see on the streets every single day, where our young people want to belong somewhere. And the gangs prey on vulnerability.
What were you in jail for?
I was in jail for extortion, kidnapping, cash and transit.
How
heists.
old were you?
I was 17 when I was arrested. I started joining the gangs when I was 14. And that was my intro. It was house robberies in the beginning. Later on it became more serious because I wanted to get more involved. And the more you do, the more acceptable you become, and the more famous you become within your own community. And that's also the other thing.
What did you want to become when you were a little boy?
I think for me, I wanted to become a police officer.
Oh, how ironic, eh?
And then
you go
one.
to the other side, the most polarized side.
Exactly.
Okay, so the gang that you belong to, I've only just read about them, but they instill the fear of God in me. 28's gang. Why are they so famous? What did you guys do? What were you doing?
I think it's not predominantly the fact that they instill fear. It is the fact that it's a question of when kids are being approached, there's absent parents. So this gang becomes your parent.
Did the elders or the adults in your community, were the job opportunities? Did you see them just progressing and attaining social mobility from point A to point Z even?
No, not really. What happened is that when you went to your parents or you went to your school, your teacher, and you asked, listen, I'm being bullied, they would say to you, deal with this. It's life. Okay. So, and then the gangs actually come in and say, we will be your protectors. We will be the ones teaching you to fend for yourself. And that brings that concept of family. We stand together. We are a unit.
You find belonging and approbation, actually. And I suspect, Carol, this is your fear, that your children growing up in Westbury today will be attracted to groups that give them validation because there are no opportunities?
Yes, I can say that because, like I said earlier, my 5-year-old, he's like salute, wash, hulaikkala. He's already saying those things.
And he does those gun things?
It.
And what goes into your heart? What goes through your mind?
All I said, Lord, I cancel it. I cancel gangsterism in Jesus' name.
So today is about solidarity. It's about community leaders. We're going to be joined by Darlene James. She became famous when she amplified her voice in protest, lamenting the drugs in El Dorado Park. Now, not only did she do that, she managed to get the attention of then President Jacob Zuma. It was a beautiful moment, a new beginning. What has since happened? Join us after the break.
Where am I going to sleep now? What about my kids?
There is bribe involved because we are not aware that they will come today.
People are being evicted about 2 months ago in May. We served the first court order. This is private property.
They came to us with a truck that has no water.
How do we build these shacks in a way that we don't have a fire spread when we have a fire incident? be a part of something like this makes me proud. And I think that to be able to report the news in a fair, just, independent and impartial way is what the public broadcaster stands for.
Need to know more about the markets? This is where it all starts, at the SABC's headquarters in Auckland Park in Johannesburg, South Africa. We analyze, report, crunch the numbers, call in the experts, package the news and bring you critical global market updates from the JSE.
The continent's leaders in liquid market movement and the fastest growing secondary listings made right here.
Small businesses, the backbone of the economy. With South Africa's very high unemployment rate, it's said that 90% of new jobs could come from this sector.
Every weekday afternoon on DSTV channel 404.
I-1,000 angikhona ukuhlala 2 weeks ngayo.
I spend 60 rand, return 820, and I work every day, 5 days.
These people cannot continue to hold those offices of government, and also we are calling for them to be removed.
Due to your negligence, many people have died. You must go to jail for murder.
If you want our vote next year, make sure that you do what you are supposed to do.
Welcome back to Unfiltered, our first episode. We're very excited here at the SABC. My name is Ridi Tlhabi. If you've just joined us, know that we are coming to you live from SABC in Auckland Park. We continue with our guests, and of course we joined this time around by Darlene James, who's no stranger to the news platform because she is that lady who once demanded that politicians come to Eldorado Park and see what is happening. And in fact, I learned a new phrase. I didn't know anything about lolly lounges when we first spoke. But I can't believe so much time has passed since. This was 2013. Yes. But Darlene, what are you complaining about? The president came to Eldorado Park because of you. Surely it solved the problem. What was your problem then? Has it been solved?
No, it definitely hasn't been solved, really. There's been no monitoring and evaluation, it's just the same thing. And this is why I've been saying to these communities and my fellow activists, we're always saying we want the MEC, we're always saying we want the president or the minister. Yes, good and well, they come out into our communities. What happens then? Does anyone get back to us a month later? Do we get feedback? The only thing we get is, X amount of arrests have been made, but where's the Justice Department and NPA? Coming into our community and arresting half the community definitely does not solve our problems.
But then, at the same time, this time around, it's Westbury. But we know that Ennerdale exploded. Eldorado Park joined the shutdown. When you then watch the police minister going to Westbury, and people seem to buy his message, he seems passionate, committed, charismatic. What are you saying? Why are you looking down? Are you a skeptic? Do
you know what? I want to remain positive and optimistic.
No, tell us the truth. Positive and optimistic.
I really want to remain positive. But in the past, we have been failed. We've been failed over and over again.
What do they promise you when they get to the community?
They promise us a task team, right? They promise a task team that's going to monitor for X amount of time, 3 months or 6 months, and after that give us feedback.
But is that not your fault?
Nothing ever
happens
happens
to that. Are you not complaining about the right things? Let me tell you what I mean here.
Okay.
In my mind, the drugs and the crime, there's a bigger meaning to it.
Definitely.
And the meaning is a lack of aspirations, a lack of opportunities, and a sense of despair and displacement. So when you have these politicians in your community and you just tell them that it's just the drug lords, that's what they will address. You'll have more police visibility. You'll have Begi Cele putting in the amaberete and whatever else you need to have. But the actual issues of the community, youth unemployment and everything else, you're not raising those.
We have been raising it, and I think I'm beginning to sound like one of these politicians repeating myself. I said that we'll never be able to yield and have an impact in our community with just SAPs there. It's a lot bigger than that. What we are dealing with right now, it's just the fruits of this. We're just dealing with the symptoms. We're not dealing with the root causes. We're not dealing with the unemployment. We're not dealing with the fact that there hasn't been any development in our areas over for as long as I've been living in El Dorado Park. We're not dealing with the fact that there's zero recreation. Social development has a fat budget, but it's not being directed and steered into our communities.
I can't help reflecting on your polarized positions. You are a mother whose son was using drugs, and you were a drug peddler. Is that the right term?
Yeah, that was it.
Do you hear the pain? Do you understand the pain? Do you have something to share with parents and decision makers like the police ministers about how guys like you operate and become successful in environments where there is no economic development?
I think for me, it needs to be said that that was my past life.
Yes, of course.
However, right now,
you
what
are a
we're
movie
doing,
star now, 3 films and all sorts of wonderful things. Wonderful.
Yeah, but it would not have happened if there wasn't a dialogue with the community. Because what happens is that when offenders come out of prison, we are orientated what's going on out there. But the community that needs to accept us is not orientated. So they do not know the caliber of offender that's coming out of prison. And right now, the police commissioner talks about doing A, B, and C, but yet the ones that are actually the problem are not involved in that. Because in order for you to understand a challenge and in order for you to understand where it happens, as Darlene said, this is much deeper than
How did you get involved? I mean, how did you get out of jail after 14 years and decided, okay, I'm going to be a great South African and a movie star?
It was difficult because what happened is that I needed to change. I needed to be the change.
Did anyone speak to you? Because, come on, just bring us in here. Take us into your heart. Did you just sit and wake up one day and say enough? Or did you look around you and say, this is not going to work? What happened? Who reached you? Who got to your heart?
I realized that if I would have had a daughter, if I would have a daughter sitting in prison, thinking to myself, if I would have a daughter one day, what kind of father would I be to her?
Just out of the blue.
And it made me think that if I want to be an example to my daughter, because I knew men were talking about the kinds of disrespect they have towards females, especially kids, ladies, girl children. And I thought to myself, if I would be a father, what kind of role model would I be in my role as a gangster?
I think that's very important because what it says to South Africans watching us and listening to us, and not just in Ennerdale, Westbury and El Dorado Park, we've got Nyaupe in townships, and we want people to believe that transformation can happen in that sense. But come on, let's call a spade a spade. There's an elephant in the room here on Unfiltered.
Yes.
I identified as Black African. I've got a Xhosa mom and my late father was Motswana, so I'm Black, 100% Black. But there's this slogan that keeps being said. In apartheid, we're not white enough. In post-apartheid South Africa, we're not black enough. And here I'm sitting, hey, we're all Black, but that's not the reality. We heard one community leader saying this government must take seriously the concerns of the colored community and not just pander to their Black voters. And I went, hold on, what do you mean the Black voters? Are we not one? What is the reality? What are people in your community saying about their identity and being South African? Do they feel left out?
Definitely. I think we've identified and everyone has said that, yes, we've definitely been marginalized. But you know what, really, there's so many groups, there's so many cultures within a culture, you know, like you have with the Zulu. I think there's the Khoisan that has come up. There are some people that are actually comfortable. Myself, I'm comfortable with just being colored. And I think what matters most for me is not what I'm called, but what happens in my community.
But are there people who feel left out because of their identity?
Yes,
honestly.
Yes.
Okay.
It has divided us.
Okay. We're going to analyze that when we come back. I thank you for taking us on a journey, bringing us into your personal spaces. And this is not just your battle in Westbury and Ennerdale. Exactly. I think that any South African whose head is wired correctly, this is our story. Thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. We're taking a break and we're going to get analysis about identity politics and the big issue here, socio-economic development and taking everybody along. Stay with us.
They've wasted our time, they've made our members to go on strike, they've made the public to suffer for nothing.
Andikwazi ukutya i-treatment ngendlela ngenxa into yoba imali ayikho. Ndifumene i-600 xa ndiphinda futhi ndidrowa ayiphumi ayikho kwakwi-account.
What we are experiencing now is due to the number of people accessing the system at the same time. So if they can just be patient for 3 to 4 days.
The Cape Flats is under siege
by the gangsters, by the drug dealers.
The community is saying at this point in time they have had enough.
The end of the day, what is happening? The police do nothing. The doctors get lost. We are sick and tired of this.
We want the government to take note of us.
Talk to us about this Imbiza.
It's a national call for black people to come and have a conversation about the black condition. We have realized that after all that suffering, black people are still going through economic frustration. We also believe that heritage should be there to bring black and white together. We're not against the idea of rainbowism.
We are losing the best of kids. People that are fathers or pastors that comes from a church.
No taxi, nothing. We were not notified. I get to town, there's nothing.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Unfiltered with me, Ridi Tlhabi. If you've just joined us, where have you been? Well, we are coming to you live from SABC, Auckland Park. And I'm now joined by University of Johannesburg, UJ, senior researcher Karin Runciman. And if you remember our last segment, we left it on identity politics, displacement, a sense that I don't belong in the new South Africa. But I think it will be foolhardy and incorrect to depict every single protester in Ennerdale, Westbury and Eldorado Park as not buying into a South African identity. Many do, but they feel that the South Africa of today is not delivering to their needs. And that's what we want to talk about today. I just want to get something off my chest, something that is a huge tension for me. I'm ambivalent about it. I hate seeing images of a library or a Rea Vaya bus or infrastructure being burnt down. I hate seeing clinics on fire because I think these services are for you. But at the same time, I also have profound discomfort with criminalizing protesters or addressing the protest at a superficial level by bringing in the police and not addressing the matters that Welcome, Darlene and Carol were talking about. Social mobility, socio-economic development. Are we pitching our solutions at the right temperature?
Well, I think as you're raising, you can go in with the Amabaretti, you can go in with a minister and have a very nice speech, but it's not going to address the fundamental and underlying causes of these protests, which is the deep structural inequality in our society. The fact that if you are black in this society, the likelihood is that you are poor, most likely, and that 24 years into our democracy, we have not solved this problem. And in fact, what we're seeing is deeper inequality, to the point where the protesters that we speak to, almost all of them agree that democracy is not for them, that they have been excluded from democracy because there is no meaningful change in their community, in their society.
I think we do, though, cut our nose to spite our face when we have this hierarchy of pain. I suffered more than you did in the past. You didn't suffer as much as I did. And yet we all collectively come with historical trauma, dispossession, landlessness. How do we transcend all of that and change the tone of the debate so that we truly listen to each other, so that I know what the needs of that particular community are, even though I don't come from that community?
I think the problem that we have is that we often drill it down to the community level to say, what do people in Westbury need? What do people in Thembelihle need, for instance? But we're not joining the dots here. And the fact is, whether it's in Westbury, whether it's in Thembelihle, it is exactly the same condition that is causing these problems. That is what people are protesting about. It is about inequality. So what we really need are solutions that look at how our economy is structured. Is it right that companies that are not part of the South African, who are not listed here in South Africa, make huge profits on the London Stock Exchange. They use black South African workers to make huge profits, and they take it out of this country, and none of us share in that profit. I think this is really the fundamental issue here. Do we have an economy that works for the majority of people in South Africa? And the reality is we don't.
And yet, invariably, the conversations that we're having, I feel, or our approach is self-sabotaging, in a sense that you would look at a community that is equally poor and say government is investing in this community. They're not investing in us. There are RDP houses there, not in our area. Those are all poor people, and the people that you've just described as having the capital or having the power to invest and get huge returns are not being blamed. So it's almost as if the poor are going at each other's throats. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's the reality of what we do see, that, for instance, if there is a housing project, then it becomes a squabble over who gets access to that housing project. And really that does distract us from the much bigger picture. I mean, things like South Africa has amongst the worst levels of corporate crime. And these are not issues that we're really talking about. All of that money that is lost from the tax system that could be going towards building houses, building schools, building all of the things that we need. And I think that's unfortunately the reality.
So let's go back to Westbury. Do you think the government, or the state, as it were, has responded with ingenuity and compassion to the situation?
I'm deeply troubled that one of the responses is to send the Amabareti out into the streets of Westbury. The Amabareti, the tactical response teams, are paramilitary units, heavily armed. They are not trained to deal with the situation.
But the people are fed up with drug lords who are known to the community, so maybe they're happy.
I can understand that on the immediate level there's maybe happiness, but I think putting more arms onto the streets of Westbury is unlikely to solve the deep structural issues that are at the heart here. This is not an intervention around health. It's not around an intervention around social welfare. These are really the things I think people are asking for, as well as better policing. These things have to go together. You can't just send the Amabareti out onto the street and think the job is done.
Are we militarizing our streets? It conjures up some bad memories of myself growing up in Orlando East with the military just patrolling our streets. Is that where we're going?
I think that's the deep concern, that increasingly, whether it's Westbury or whether it's any form of protest, the response is increasingly becoming militarised through the use of tactical response units and the use of the way in which public order policing is intervening, and I think it is deeply concerning.
Well, we live to tell our stories another day. I've got a sense that I will be speaking to you again, and that makes me troubled, because it means that there's going to be an uprising somewhere, and we have to delve in and confront these ills of our society. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. And I guess this is where we come to, that as South Africans, we really ought to reflect on what the problem is. Is it just crime or drugs? Are we going at it at a superficial level, or are we looking at the granular details, the core of our existence, and that is people are feeling displaced. They feel that there are no economic opportunities, that their aspirations of the youth are not being met. How do we as a country confront that? Who is listening to the poor? We'll be back next week. Thank you for watching Unfiltered. Let's continue the conversation on social media. I'm Ridi Klabi. Goodbye.